And good morning, Dodger fans. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. This is your pre-Thanksgiving episode, and the Dodgers did their Black Friday shopping earlier just to kind of go back off of last night. The Dodgers and Blake Snell have come to an agreement. More details on all of that if you aren't in the loop, but the Dodgers landed the best free agent starting pitcher out there on the open market, and we're not even at the winter meetings yet, and they struck early. Dodger fans should be excited. I want to get Jake Reiner's thoughts on the big move of Dodgers and Blake Snell coming to terms on a huge 5-year contract.
Well, as you know, Kevin, we have been on the Blake Snell train for the entirety of this offseason. He was one of our main targets that we wanted to get, and I think that this was the best option that they could have selected. This guy is durable, but he's also the embodiment of what today's starting pitcher is, which is very low usage, like in terms of length. He's not going to go deep into ball games. He's going to go, 4-5 innings, but he's going to pitch every day. He's very durable. He doesn't get hurt. Even though he was a little bit hurt in the beginning of last season, he is able to pitch in the postseason, and we've seen that he's a pretty decent postseason pitcher. So I couldn't be more excited for this move. The Dodgers needed a left-handed starting pitcher. It was very right-handed heavy outside of Clayton Kershaw. So the ability to get a starting pitcher like this and lock him up for 5 years is beautiful. It's a great way to start the offseason. I love, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I love all of the haters out there, all the non-Dodgers fans that are pissed off that the Dodgers have done this. It's a great feeling. I mean, we're World Series champions, and we just snagged one of, if not the best pitcher.
Yeah, to go back off your haters comment, there's 30 teams out there, and there's 30 teams that can all do what exactly the Los Angeles Dodgers are doing, and the vast majority of them choose not to do exactly what the Dodgers are doing. And that's their problem. So fans of like the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Tampa Bay Rays and the Washington Nationals, you've had your chance to put together a competitive team and start with the Nationals. You didn't want to re-sign Juan Soto to the contract that he offered. And so now Juan Soto is probably about to be on his 4th team in 4 years. The Pittsburgh Pirates continue to have one of the lowest payrolls in Major League Baseball. And so I look at the owners around the league, and fans should be mad at their owners, not what the Dodgers are doing. And so on the Blake Snell news, 5-year, $182 million contract pending the physical is what we're looking at with the Dodgers and Blake Snell. This is apparently the 3rd largest contract ever handed out to a left-handed pitcher. I believe I was reading last night from an AAV standpoint, it's the 3rd highest AAV out there as well, trailing only Zach Wheeler and Jacob deGrom. So Blake Snell, Scott Boras, they got their bag. They got exactly what they wanted. And I'm ecstatic for what Blake Snell is going to add to this Dodgers rotation. So we'll get into all that. You know what else I think fans are kind of pissed about outside of Dodgers fans? The deferrals. I think there's $63 or $62 million in deferrals that the Dodgers and Blake Snell got this contract with, and a big signing bonus too.
I love how people are just coming to realize that deferrals is an option, and that the Dodgers aren't the only ones doing it, even though it's been highly publicized. I mean, obviously, the biggest deferral that they've done so far was with Shohei Otani, and that got a lot of press, obviously, because the Dodgers want the ability to be able to sign as many high-priced talent as possible, and for it to be financially responsible for this organization. I read a point on, someone made this point on X, which was that a lot of teams shy away from doing these deferrals that are maybe in the process of selling the team, because they don't want to. It's not very attractive to new ownership if there are a bunch of these deferred contracts on the books. Whereas the Dodgers, they've had, the Guggenheim group has been in charge for a very long time now. Andrew Friedman isn't going anywhere. This is going to be their team. So they can defer as much as they want and know that they're not going to be selling this team and that they're going to try and build a championship winner for years to come. I mean, we've been on quite a ride since this Guggenheim group took over. And if you remember where we were, Kevin, with the McCourts, it was an absolute disaster. And we were, in conversations with big name free agents, but we knew we were going to lose out in the end because McCourt was so cheap that he would never pony up the money. Ned Colletti talks about it all the time, about how they had deals in place to get CC Sabathia, but it wasn't okayed by the ownership. Can you imagine if the Dodgers had an opportunity to get a pitcher like a CC Sabathia now? I mean, it wouldn't even be a question. I mean, they went out and got, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner at the deadline. I mean, they are in every single conversation. They're even in the Juan Soto conversation, even though I don't think they're going to end up with him. But just the fact that they're not only in the conversation, but you have the confidence that they're going to be able to get a big name free agent. And that's what I said at the outset of this offseason. I'm fine with whatever they do. I mean, like I've said, the only thing that I really, truly care about is Teoscar Hernandez. But outside of that, I know that the Dodgers are just going to be fine. The fact that they went and got Blake Snell is par for the course for them. So this is a great signing. You're pairing up Glasnow and Snell again, those two teammates. Snell reunited with Andrew Friedman from the Rays days. And I am not just talking out of my ass here in terms of Blake Snell's durability, because if you look since 2017, 24 starts, then the next year, 31 starts, then 23 starts. 2020 was only 11, but then you go to 21, 27 starts, 24 starts, 32 starts. And then last year he only made 20 starts because he signed late in the process and wasn't able to really ramp himself up and got hurt in the beginning of the season. But this guy takes the ball every fifth day. And with this Dodgers rotation, I'm sure they're going to make it a 6-man rotation. So it's going to be even more rest for Blake Snell. This is an incredible signing, and it is one of my number one targets. Now we have him.
If you're watching live right now, smash that like button. If you've got questions for us, go ahead. You can drop them in the chat. And you mentioned Frank McCourt. And for us Dodger fans that are listening, us speaking right now, that had to endure the Frank McCourt years, I'll openly admit it. I boycotted Dodger Stadium. I was a part of that movement because I wanted his ass out of the Dodgers ownership. And so when we get moments like this offseason and last offseason and the Scherzer trade you mentioned and bringing in Mookie Betts, we deserve this because we endured a lot of shit for 10 plus years, not only with Frank McCourt, but the ownerships before him, the ownership
Fox
that
ownership,
traded Mike Piazza away, didn't want to pay the big stars. And so when you got a team that's run by Andrew Friedman, and just like what they did in 2020 when they won the World Series, what do they do that following offseason? They went out there and signed the biggest starting pitcher available. That year was Trevor Bauer. They're doing that exactly again this offseason by signing Blake Snell. It's showing that this Dodgers team and organization is not complacent and they're not willing to half-ass it going into the 2025 season as reigning champions. They're going to do everything they can to run it back. So that's a testament to the Dodgers ownership to show how much they care about winning, how much they care about the fans, and how much they care about their players, willing to lay it all out there financially and do everything they can to try to have the next dynasty.
Los Angeles sports fans are pretty spoiled. I mean, for years, the Lakers were on an incredible run with Shaq and Kobe, and then with Kobe and Pau Gasol, and obviously all the years prior to that, Showtime and all that. So then you transition into this new Dodgers ownership. They've put a winner on the field every year, a chance to win a World Series. Most recently, I mean, the Rams, winning a Super Bowl, Les Snead and all those guys, and Kroenke sparing no expense. It's an incredible ride when you have an ownership in place and a front office in place that gives a shit about winning. and you're not stuck being a, Pittsburgh Pirates fan or a Colorado Rockies fan where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. They may be able to cobble together like a Cinderella team, like the Diamondbacks, a year ago, and make a run, make one magical run, like maybe the Tigers, even though the Tigers look like they're building something. But it's like, that's all really what you can hope for every spring training. And for us, every spring training is like, how are we going to get to October? Are we going to be healthy enough? That's the only thing we're thinking about and talking about, because it's inevitable that they're going to make the playoffs. The biggest question is what is the roster going to look like once they do? That's the only question mark surrounding this team every year, and it's a pretty incredible position to be in.
Yeah, just like Justin Yamas is pointing out, pretty much all the LA teams are winning except the Clippers. The LA Kings have won titles. The LAFC team has won an MLS Cup. I know the LA Galaxy have a history of winning, and they're on the verge of maybe winning another MLS Cup this year. But yeah, Clippers, Chargers, you're just in an odd boat. Sorry, teams. I wanted to point out some fun stats about Blake Snell and why Dodger fans should be excited about the signing. So, some 2024 numbers: left-handed hitters hit 105 against Blake Snell. Right-handed batters hit 187 against Blake Snell. And this is a season where Blake Snell didn't even have an authentic spring training. After the All-Star break on a pretty abysmal Giants team that was going nowhere, Blake Snell still pitched his ass off and had a 145 ERA in the second half. For the season as a whole, a 243 FIP, which is just monster numbers. Lifetime in the postseason, Blake Snell's gotten it done, even though he was removed after the fifth inning into the sixth inning against the Dodgers in the World Series. He still has a 3.33 postseason ERA, and lifetime at Dodger Stadium, he has a 2.03 ERA while pitching at Dodger Stadium. Add to that, he's won 2 Cy Young Award winners and pitched a no-hitter last season. That's a very accomplished starter that the Dodgers got. So I'll throw out the hot take right now that in terms of what the Dodgers need and what they're looking for, of all the current free agents out there, including the Juan Sotos of the world, the Dodgers signed the most impactful free agent to what they needed. And so I think we were on the right side of this when we said the focus needed to be on a Blake Snell as opposed to wasting their time with Juan Soto. So I think the Dodgers are in the right direction. And like you said earlier, we called it from the jump. We didn't want to waste our breath talking about Max Fried or really Corbin Burns that much to the extent, because we felt like that Blake Snell was always going to be their top target. And there was mutual interest that Blake Snell wanted to join the Dodgers. And so I'm going to pass it over to you and kind of tell the listeners how the Blake Snell thing fell into their laps by the Padres offering a qualifying offer and the Giants just holding on to him too long.
Yeah, so buried at the end of one of the Athletic articles that was written about Blake Snell going to the Dodgers was this fun little paragraph here. At the end, it says, the Dodgers made a late run at Snell before he signed with the Giants last spring and also showed interest in him at the trade deadline. He evidently was more intriguing to them, meaning the Dodgers, now than he was a year ago, when his expectations were higher and draft pick compensation was part of the equation. Snell, because he received a qualifying offer from the San Diego Padres last offseason, was not eligible for another qualifying offer. So what that means is that because there was no draft pick associated with Blake Snell, because when you offer a qualifying offer and the player declines, that means that if they get signed by another team, the team that had him last will get a draft pick compensation for it. But because the Padres offered him the QO last offseason and he declined, you can't then offer another qualifying offer after that. So he became way more attractive to the Dodgers because they can sign him without giving up a draft pick. And so in a beautiful just twist of fate, the Padres basically gift wrapped Blake Snell to the Dodgers. How do you like that?
Padres inadvertently helped us. I also feel like because AJ Preller and Seidler, before he passed, recklessly spent a shit ton of money on players they didn't need, like Xander Bogaerts, for example, and maybe an unnecessary extension to Yu Darvish. Blake Snell was their franchise pitcher that they honestly should have made a Padre for life. And because they didn't have the funds to essentially re-sign him, because they were dealing with those guys, the Juan Soto contract that they had to get off the books, and just spending an exorbitant amount of money that they couldn't afford, they had to let Blake Snell walk in free agency, and then that set it up for him to go to the Giants, a team that just wasn't ready to compete, and certainly an organization that Blake Snell had no desire to go back to after his 1 year stint there. I mean, it just set it up beautifully for him to come to the Dodgers.
Here's the difference between AJ Preller and Andrew Friedman. I mean, there are a lot of differences, but one of the main ones is that AJ Preller kind of just spends money wildly. It's not very thoughtful. It's just, let's land the big fish, or let's try to land one of the big fishes, and then let's just see what happens. And yeah, you're going to put a lot of high-priced talent on your team. You're going to be a good ball club, which is why the Padres are a good team. But what Andrew Friedman does is that he also spends a lot of money, but he picks and chooses which players he's going to spend a lot of money on. Like Mookie Betts, franchise player, like Freddie Freeman, like Shohei Otani, like Blake Snell, like Tyler Glasnow. And he let a lot of these other guys like Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. The one that we always talk about, the one that got away, was Corey Seager. You could make an argument that he probably should have paid a little bit more for Corey Seager. But the point is that he is so methodical in who he pays, because he's such a great evaluator of talent. And that whole front office is that they know which players they're going to attach themselves for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, and on that note, like, why did AJ Preller and the Padres feel like they had to, right out of the gate, give Fernando Tatis Jr. a 14-year, $340 million contract based off like a 1.5 year sample size? Tatis Jr. didn't earn that contract at all. That'd be like the Dodgers extending and giving a big contract to like James Outman after his impressive rookie year and locking him up to $100 million contract.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's the same as James Outman, because I feel like Fernando Tatis Jr. is way more highly touted but I see what your point is that
you have the arbitration years and you can just milk the rookie contract,
right,
and get the talent around him. And instead, out of the gate, they pay him at one of the highest contracts in baseball. I don't get it.
And he rewards them by getting popped for steroids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't understand sometimes with these teams. I mean, the Braves do this a lot, where they'll lock up their rookies for a long-term contract at maybe a lesser value than they would make on the open market. And it's an interesting strategy. I mean, the Braves have won a World Series doing that. So you can't really fault them for that. But I agree. It's like, if you don't have to pay your superstar player until you have to, why not just wait that out? I don't know. I don't get it.
8 years, $100 million is what they gave to Ronald Acuna Jr. And he won an MVP. He didn't technically win a World Series because he wasn't on that roster, but he's a third plus less cost. He got a ring, and he's a third less cost of Tatis, and has done more for that franchise. So this is why the Padres are just in a disarray. But let's go back to some more thoughts on just kind of Blake Snell and foreseeing what the Dodgers do with the rest of their pitching rotation, maybe some free agency. So I think Blake Snell was obviously their 1A. This pretty much takes them out, I think, of the Garrett Crochet sweepstakes. I don't think they're going to go that avenue now. They're going to re-sign Clayton Kershaw. We have no clue what Clayton Kershaw's health status looks like. Likely won't be ready for spring training in opening day. But you've got Glasnow that you mentioned. So you got Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, Otani at some point. Gonsolin's expected to be in that rotation. And then you've got a bunch of young guys like Bobby Miller, Landon Ack, Nick Frasso, Justin Robleski, maybe Ben Kasparius. And then that leaves probably one opening, whether it's Roki Sasaki or Walker Buehler. I'm not quite sure yet if the Dodgers would sign both Walker Buehler and Roki Sasaki. I don't know if there's enough roster spots. Do you think that's pretty much where the Dodgers are?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that Roki Sasaki is still their target to put in this rotation, because if you, I mean, look, if you look at the rotation as it is right now, you've got Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, and then you kind of have a lot of question marks like Gonsolin or May or Gavin Stone or River Ryan. I mean, there's so many different kind of options there. You don't know if they're going to bring back Bueller. To me, it's like they need to keep building out this rotation. They need to keep putting arms on this roster, whether that's a Roki Sasaki. I think obviously that's still their main target, but maybe you go after an innings eater, similar to what they did with James Paxton. Maybe you find, one or two of those guys out there that can get you through a season, because the Dodgers, again, are going to be careful with their rotation. They've talked about a 6-man rotation. I forgot to throw an Otani in there. There's another guy that's coming off a major surgery. And you just don't know what you're going to get from those guys. And so I think that it would behoove them to go after more starting pitching so that they can make it through a whole season.
Pulling up some questions we got on X because I opened it up to the chat. So we'll go with J Cars 22. What, in your opinion, should the Dodgers do if they don't get Roki Sasaki? I think the focus has to be probably re-signing Walker Bueller.
Yeah,
I think it's as simple as that. Next
I'd love to re-sign Walker Bueller anyway.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of contract he gets. I honestly have no read on Bueller and what his contract looks like. I would have probably given him the qualifying offer and hope he accepted that. But maybe he's worth less. I honestly am not entirely sure. CBB Blues, Shohei would be better for the Dodgers as a high leverage reliever spot starter than a regular rotation guy. Thoughts?
Well, it gets tricky when you are going to want to play Shohei Otani every day as a designated hitter. Yeah. I mean, what you're not going to do is write his name in the lineup every day. And then, in the 6th, 7th inning, he runs out to the bullpen and starts warming up. Like they just gave him a $700 million contract. They're not going to start experimenting with that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that happens in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We saw Walker Bueller run out to the bullpen in Game 5, and then he came in and shut the door. I mean, that's a World Series / playoff scenario. I think they're going to try him as a starter and see how that goes.
Yeah, I also don't even think that's legal unless the Dodgers are up by like 5 or 6 or down by 5 or 6 runs. Didn't they implement kind of stricter rules now about position players pitching? And so if Shohei Otani is a position player, he'd really only be able to come out of the bullpen if either he's A, not in the starting lineup that day, or B, the game is just completely out of hand. So I don't think you can bring Shohei Otani out of the bullpen to close if the Dodgers are up 1 run. I don't think that's allowed if he's in the lineup.
I'm not sure what the rules are on that. I know that there is a specific Shohei Otani rule in terms of when you take him off the mound, is he still able to be the DH, which I believe is the case. Like if he's starting that day and they want to take him out of the game, then he can go back to being the DH. Is that right?
I'm honestly not too familiar.
You know what? We'll be more familiar with that once we see him on the mound, and we can tell you more about that. Hopefully he is healthy enough to pitch, though. That is the key. But the other key is that what the Dodgers have done, or what they're going to continue to do, is that they're not relying on Shohei Otani to be a pitcher in this rotation. And in terms of him being the ace of this staff, let's say, I mean, they are relying on him to be a pitcher eventually, but they have so much depth and so much talent on this team that they can take as much time and they can be as careful as they want to with him.
Yeah. So Appreciate the chat being lively. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please hit the like button. Those likes go a long way. You can get your questions in there too. If you're just tuning in, drop some questions in the chat. I know I saw one or two in there, so I'll get to that. But to kind of finish off the question, it'd be a waste to not use Shohei Otani as a starter. Now, I'm aware that he's coming off a second elbow surgery, and it's unrealistic to expect him to post these numbers pre-second surgery. But in 5 years as a starting pitcher, Shohei Otani has a career 3.01 ERA in the regular season. 481 innings thrown, 608 strikeouts across that stretch. So he's been a strikeout machine, and the ridiculously low ERA. A Cy Young candidate at times when he's on his A game. Now, the thing with Shohei, and I think the Dodgers are going to get this right, is he just hasn't been durable enough for the most part in his career to last a full season as a pitcher. So that's going to be the trick for this organization. And that's why I think they're going with the 6-man rotation for one. Two, they're going to probably start him later in the year, not right out of the gate in opening day. Also, the second shoulder or the shoulder surgery kind of hurts that as well. But yeah, regardless, you want Shohei as a starter if he's going to put these numbers. He is filthy, absolutely filthy. So we'll see what version of Shohei we get. But there's a reason he's getting $700 million, and the bat itself was almost like a luxury of what we saw in year one. When we get the pitcher and the hitter, it's just next level.
To me, like even if he doesn't pitch or only pitches a few times, like that to me is the bonus for me as a fan, because his bat is so electric that even if he's just a $700 million DH, I'm fine with it. I mean, that's just how baseball is right now.
So question from Nando 390 in the chat. So are the Dodgers done?
No.
So I think this is a good segue. Yeah. No, they're not done. We both think they're going to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, and I would be pretty shocked if they don't bring him back.
Just get it done, please. We need it.
Kike Hernandez is another piece I expect them to come to get him back. Blake Trinan, I think they'll bring him back. No one's going to, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, but I think Kenley Jansen's going to ultimately come back to the Dodgers.
Why do you think that?
I think, okay, in short summary, last season he talked about how he wants to retire a Los Angeles Dodger. He's also flirted with the idea of trying to get this reunion to happen. A year ago, the Dodgers had a trade in place to bring back Kenley Jansen involving the Manuel Margot salary dump, and it fell through last minute, and they had to pivot to Ryan Brazier. Kenley's a free agent now, so he gets to choose his own destiny. I think he's willing to accept less money, a lesser role with the Dodgers, and try to run it back to win one more World Series and kind of go out on a high note, because when Kenley Jansen retires, he's going to go out as a Los Angeles Dodgers. So I think he wants a farewell tour in Los Angeles. And I think the Dodgers are pretty open to it as well. They've tried to get him back before. So I think he's going to sign dirt cheap with the Dodgers. I would expect 2025 or 26, if he signs a multi-year deal, to be his last years in Los Angeles. And he may go to the Hall of Fame, and the Dodgers would probably be put into a position where they have no choice but to retire his number one day.
Yes. Although I don't know who else would want 74. So that's a pretty easy. They don't even have to retire it. No one else is going to want that number anyway.
Didn't Chris not wear it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, they would hand it to like a guy that's kind of at the end of the 40-man roster, you know, or like it's more like a spring training number than anything. I don't know. Part of me is like I don't really want Kenley Jansen back, only because his role is very specific, and if he can't be the closer, then I don't know what use we have for him, because the way that this Dodgers bullpen is constructed is that pretty much it's a bullpen by committee. Anybody can kind of do any role, with Evan Phillips or Brusdar Graterol or Blake Trinan. I mean, all those guys can do multiple things. And Kenley Jansen can really only do one thing, which is be the closer in the ninth inning. And I don't know that the Dodgers really want to do that. I feel like they've enjoyed this flexibility that they've had. But bottom line, all the Dodgers really need to do is just basically run this back as much as they can. Teoscar Hernandez, Kike Hernandez, Blake Trinan, and Walker Buehler. I mean, that to me is a great offseason. Just bring these guys back and let's just see if we can repeat. We haven't had a repeat World Series winner in a long time. So I'd be interested to see if the Dodgers can pull that off. But I think that they don't really need to look outside or elsewhere to find the pieces they need. They already had them and they won a title with them. So let's just see if we can bring those guys back.
So they're going to have to replace Daniel Hudson. So I think Kenley Jansen could replace that Daniel
Sure,
Hudson role.
I'm fine with that, actually.
But
I'm fine
they also picked a flyer up just a couple days ago with Giovanni Gallegos. And maybe Gallegos can be that guy who they signed to a minor league contract. He was dog shit last season for the Cardinals, had a 6.53 ERA. But throughout his career, he's been a pretty high leverage reliever and a closer, and just feels like the next reclamation project. He's only like 32, 33, lifetime ERA of 3.49. So I think it's a good flyer for the Dodgers. Low risk, high reward with Gallegos. So we'll definitely see him in spring training.
Was he the guy that gave up the bomb to Chris Taylor in 21, or is that somebody else?
No, that was Alex Reyes, who never pitched for the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, we did pick him up.
I think Gallegos, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the one involved in that ridiculously long Chris Taylor at bat in the regular season.
That's what it was. I was like, it had to do something with Chris Taylor.
Yeah, where it was like almost like 20 pitches, and then Taylor beat him. But yeah, I mean, Gallegos, they already said he's got a couple upticks in his velocity on his fastball. So I think the Dodgers, like they've done with other relievers that we thought were dead, they can maybe turn his career around, a la Ryan Brazier. So we'll see what happens. But I like the move. Dodgers making little moves and big moves with Blake Snell. So the last thing on Blake Snell, unless you got more to add on him, just to circle back. I know you were out to dinner. I don't know if I was the first one that told you about Blake Snell, but
you were actually. You were.
So yeah, someone sent me on the Discord the Instagram post, and I know that there was some skepticism about whether that was authentic or not. And unless he was hacked, which obviously he wasn't, when that happened, I was like, he is a Dodger. This is not a troll. He is 100% announcing it like Shohei Otani did a year ago. And I would bet money that Blake Snell had talked to some Dodgers players instantly out of the gate when he became a free agent this offseason. And so I feel like some of the Dodgers players were not shocked at all or were blindsided. They probably encouraged him, he planted some seeds, and gave like some insight of what it would be like to be a Dodgers pitcher. And so I think this was completely welcomed.
You don't think that Tyler Glasnow placed a call to Blake Snell? I mean, they probably had a long conversation, I would assume.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I bet Kershaw helped too.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe, Mookie and Freddie and some of the leaders on the team probably reached out. I don't know, but certainly Glasnow talked to Snell. I feel like I can stake my claim on that one.
We got a super chat from Mike Lopez. Thank you so much, Mike. Super chats are always the go-to way if you want your questions prioritized with a more in-depth and insightful answer. So Mike Lopez saying that the Dodgers are going to trade for the Brewers closer, Devin Williams. 100%, he says. Thoughts on that?
I would love that. I mean, you get a guy like Devin Williams back into the bullpen. That's a guy that I would say like he's the closer. Like that's a guy that I would do. But he also has had a ton of experience setting up. I mean, he set up Josh Hader for a long time. So he's a very, very attractive player for an Andrew Friedman. I think he's one of the best relievers that you can go and get. And how old is he? He's still pretty young, I think.
Yeah, he's pretty young. He's like 30 or something, I want to say. So I think it was Bob Nightingale that wrote the piece. And the latest update with Devin Williams is that the Brewers are going to try to hold on to him until the trade deadline. typical Brewers fashion. But I could definitely see the Dodgers trying to persuade Milwaukee to trade him earlier, and I would completely welcome the move. I think he'd be an awesome addition to the Dodgers bullpen. So we'll wait and see what happens. But I would love the Devin Williams move. So big fan of it. He's an awesome high leverage reliever. Even though his last playoff appearance did not go very well. What did he do? Give up a big home run to Pete Alonso?
Yeah. So he's 30 years old. So he had a 21.6 ERA in the postseason last year.
Brutal.
Yeah, the Brewers were on their way to the NLDS. Basically, all they had to do was get Pete Alonso out, and he served up a 3-run bomb.
Okay, so let's couple more questions in here, and then we'll talk some Thanksgiving stuff and get to your guys' questions if you have any questions for us in the chat. So we'll do these 2 questions and then talk some more Dodger stuff. From Brial Blanc 6. If you could bring back any previous Dodger from any era to play on the 2024 squad, who would it be and why? And maybe he means for 2025 because they won the World Series in 2024. So I wouldn't change a thing. Let's move that to 2025. Who would you bring back? Any Dodger.
Oh, that's a good one. And I assume, and let's add this, they would be in their prime. How sweet, I mean, this is, I'm so biased with this pick, but how sweet would it be if the Dodgers signed Sean Green to play right field? They have an opening in the outfield. It would be Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, and Sean Green in right field. Oh my God. That would be, and I've always, as the biggest Sean Green fan out there, I've always bummed that he didn't play for the Dodgers longer, and then also that he didn't get a ring, even though they never came close when he was there. But I was so devastated when they traded him to the Diamondbacks for Dioner Navarro. Are you kidding me? So I would definitely bring back Sean Green.
Okay, that's a cool answer. If you guys have an answer in the chat, let us know. I see Justin Yama saying Sandy Koufax. Can't go wrong there. Jeremy Bird, Manny Ramirez. That's an electric answer as well. Now, tell me if this is cheating, but for me, I would do 2014 Clayton Kershaw. Now, is that acceptable?
Yes, it is cheating. Come on, pick. That's a great answer because he was dominant in 2014. But give us a player that's not on the team currently.
Fine. Okay, so a Dodger that's not playing. Okay, since he just passed away, I'll do it in honor of him. Bring me back rookie sensation Fernando Valenzuela.
1981 Fernando would be sick. Again, another lefty that would really be helpful.
He would. I mean, I wasn't alive to see him pitch, but what he did that season is just mind-boggling. So to pull up the Fernando 1981 stats. 248 ERA, 192 innings thrown, 180 strikeouts, 244 FIP. The guy was just a workhorse out there, and I think he fits exactly what the Dodgers need right now. Now, they just signed Blake Snell, but adding Fernando to that rotation would be sick as well. And you get some culture diversification out there. So I'll go with Fernando in honor of his recent passing, and I'll leave it at that. The last question, this one is exactly up Jake's alley, and it comes from Rebecca Michelle David. I don't know if we'll get to 5 baseball movies, but maybe we can combine them. Would love to know Kevin and Jake's top 5 baseball movies of all time.
Okay. I since we didn't have time to really think about this, I'm not going to put them in any particular order, but I'll tell you my number 1 baseball movie at the end of this. So on this list, I think for me is going to be Major League is going to be on there. I love that movie. It's hilarious and it's just a classic. The Natural has to be on there. Robert Redford, just a classic movie. I don't know. A lot of people pick The Sandlot, but I don't really view that as like a baseball movie. It's like a feel good friendship summertime movie with baseball in it. So I'm not going to go with that. Why don't you name a few that you like, Kevin? I'll start to think a little bit more.
Yeah, so Major League is my number one. After that, it kind of just is no particular order. Moneyball is in my top 5.
Yeah.
And the Natural is probably in that top 5 too.
Field of Dreams.
Not for me personally.
Yeah, not for me either.
Let me see what else there is.
I mean, there's Angels.
Okay,
in the outfield.
This one's freaking corny, but I really like Fever Pitch.
Oh
I
man,
can't get enough of Fever Pitch. I think I'm gonna put that one in there. And I liked 61. I thought that was pretty good. The Billy.
That actually, you know what? Fuck yeah, let's go with that. 61's up there for me for sure. I didn't even think about that one. The Billy Crystal Roger Maris movie. I love that movie. Moneyball's up there for me. But my favorite. Someone mentioned 42. That's a good one.
Yeah, 42.
Bull Durham. Yeah, that's a good one too. But my number one favorite baseball movie, which is nobody's favorite baseball movie, is Little Big League. That is my all-time favorite movie. Because for one simple reason, when I started watching that movie, it came out in the 90s. I fully thought that I could one day be the manager of a baseball team at my current age, because it was a 12-year-old running the Twins. How hard could it be? I'm a diehard baseball fan. I know a lot about baseball. I could run the team just like Billy Haywood did. So it was more of a fantasy thing for me there. But on top of that, if you really watch that movie from a baseball perspective, the way that they orchestrate the season and how it ends up, and the wild card race between the Twins and the Mariners, it comes down to a final, tie-break game, is just beautifully done, because it was made by two major baseball fans, Andrew and Andy Scheinman. Andrew and Adam Scheinman, the two brothers. And they've got a ton of stars in that movie. I mean, so many baseball stars. Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr., Pudge Rodriguez, Wally Joyner, Rafael Palmeiro. I mean, the list goes on and on with how many great stars are in that movie. So that's why it's my favorite.
Okay, fair enough. Let's transition now to some Thanksgiving talk. So I didn't really prepare a nasty fun segment for Thanksgiving, but first off, wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. Hope you get to have some good food and spend time with your family. So to set this up, you know your Thanksgiving dishes. So first, to tee it off, for a reminder, Jake, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
So it's a tie between, I mean, these are the side dishes that I love. The yams with the marshmallow melted over top, fucking phenomenal. And then stuffing, but stuffing there's so many ways to make stuffing. There's so many different versions of it. So that's why it's sort of like, if the stuffing is good, then it's going to be up there for me. But yeah, that's what I would go with.
So who on the Dodgers would be the yams? We're putting together a Thanksgiving feast. We'll get to the turkey. I think the answer is obvious. Which player is the yams?
Well, are you saying that your favorite is the yams as well?
No, my favorite's the stuffing, but since you said yams first, we'll start there.
Well, I think it's either Otani, Betts, or Freeman, or all of them.
It's not Otani. Otani is going to be the turkey, but we'll get to that later.
But people hate turkey. People find it so dry. I mean, I like it.
You can't have a Thanksgiving without turkey.
Well, obviously, you can't have Thanksgiving without a turkey.
So you said Betts or Freeman?
Yeah, let's go Mookie Betts.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because it tastes good. Obviously, the yams are fantastic, but it also is paired well with every other dish on that plate. And because we know Mookie is very versatile, He can move around the diamond, and he has a lot of different tools in his tool bag. I think it fits perfectly.
I agree with that. So I think on that note, Freddie Freeman is probably the stuffing, because the stuffing is the quintessential clutch dish of the night. And if you don't have good stuffing, it basically is going to throw off the entire night. And so for the Dodgers and Freddie Freeman in the World Series, you had a player that hit the walk-off grand slam and 4 home runs in a row. And the offense, now they did show up in the NLCS without Freeman, but throughout the regular season, when you have like a Kevin Biggio in your lineup instead of Freddie Freeman, it really throws things off. And you need a bat like Freddie Freeman, just like you need the stuffing.
But I'll tell you that I'll add this little nugget too that I just thought of about Freddie Freeman and stuffing is that, like you said, the stuffing has to be good. Otherwise, it can throw off everything. But even if you have bad stuffing or stuffing that isn't elite, you're still going to add stuffing to the lineup. And what I mean by that is Freddie Freeman had a bum ankle, and you're still going to put Freddie Freeman in the lineup because you never know.
Yeah. Now, you said some people hate turkey, but the real Thanksgiving lovers, like the OGs, you have to have turkey. The entire meal is centered around the turkey, and you can deep fry it. You can put it in the oven. You can barbecue it. Shohei Otani is versatile like that as well. He can steal bases. He can pitch. He can hit. He is the turkey. The entire night revolves around the turkey, just like the entire team revolves around Shohei Otani. He is the turkey of Thanksgiving. Cranberry sauce, that's a tougher one. You kind of have to have cranberry sauce. I think it's an essential part of the meal. I don't know if any names jump out to you for what the cranberry sauce would be.
I think it's a player that you could take it or leave it.
Okay.
Right? I'm not a huge cranberry guy, but I understand its value. I wonder if it's like
is it Will Smith?
Yeah, or I was gonna say Muncie, but I don't know.
That's the other one. I think it's a tie. I think Will Smith and Max Muncy are like the cranberry sauce, where they're very complimentary, but if they're not right, you can definitely get by, and that's exactly what the Dodgers did in the World Series. Muncy and Smith were kind of no-shows in the World Series and at times in the regular season, and the offense chugged along just fine, but definitely they do come through when needed. I don't even know if green bean casserole is even worth touching upon. I don't necessarily eat it a lot. Veggies as a whole are kind of just boring to me.
Daniel Hudson.
There you go. Mashed potatoes. I mean, I'm looking at mashed potatoes. I like Dennis Gonzalez saying Kershaw is the gravy. I can get along with that.
I could also see Kike Hernandez being the gravy, or being like a pie, like one of the pies.
I think he's the pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Kind of the after.
Yeah, at the end of the meal, right? Postseason.
Yep.
Post meal.
Yep. That might be it. I forgot there's not that many Thanksgiving foods.
Yeah, I mean, there's different pies you could have: pecan pie, pumpkin pie, apple. I don't know if people do apple pie, but
yeah, I mean, if there's an alternative meat, then it's probably Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he'd be the alternative. Where,
I mean, you could do light and dark meat turkey too.
Okay, I think that covers the Thanksgiving talk. So good segment there. We did our best. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is probably the ham Justin Yamas, if I had to guess. But yeah, we got to your guys' questions. If you want to get your final questions in there for us, this would be the best time to do it, and hit that like button while you're at it. Jake Reiner, is there anything else you want to cover before we get on out of here?
No, but I will keep reiterating this until we sign him. Teoscar Hernandez is the priority. I don't care what anybody says. I want him. I don't want Soto. We're not going to get Soto anyway. That's why I wasn't even really entertaining the thought, is because we're just not, we don't need him. We're not going to get him. So let's get a guy that we know is a proven winner in the World Series that just won us a title. He wants to be here, Teoscar Hernandez. I'm going to keep pounding my fist on the table until we get it.
So here's some Dodger nuggets for you, for all you listeners on the way out, and Jake can chime in while he's here. I expect the Tommy Edman extension to be announced any day now. I know John Morosi was in on it, and I think one other person probably reported it, that the Dodgers and Tommy Edman are working on that contract extension. I think it's going to happen pretty soon. I think they want to lock this guy up, and they want to have him be a foundation building block for this Dodgers organization. So I would expect that news to come out shortly. On the Juan Soto front, they are in on him. They presented a contract offer. I don't expect the Dodgers to get in on a bidding war with Juan Soto. That's why we just didn't really emphasize it a whole lot this offseason. We focused more on Blake Snell and the re-signing of Teoscar Hernandez, which I think will be next to fall in line probably in a couple weeks after either around or right after the winter meetings. And then usually near the end of the offseason, you focus on the bullpen, and I'm more than confident that the Dodgers are going to bulk up their bullpen once again, bring back the right guys, add the appropriate pieces, and as well as when Roki Sasaki is eligible to sign, get that guy in a Dodgers uniform by January 15th.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's going to cover everything. Sports Illustrated, we got the Dodgers are ruining baseball and the Twins have no chance to compete. So I guess that's a Twins writer that's very sour right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to be the negativity. So be it. Regardless, fantastic offseason for the Dodgers. Let's get to our final thoughts. I'll start with you, Jake.
I'm enjoying it. I've bought way too much championship memorabilia. I've bought way too many hats. I am just loving everything that's happening right now. This is a beautiful time of year. The Dodgers have already made a major splash and have secured a major hole on their roster for 2025, and that's Blake Snell. And I love that it was not that it was easy, but that it was so quick and just there you go, because I think Blake Snell didn't want to wait until February, which is when he signed last season to join a team. He was like, I want to get this done now. I know where I want to be. Let's get me to the Dodgers. I want to stay on the West Coast. He's a Seattle native. He wanted to stay on the West Coast. I love this move. And it's just great knowing that more moves are going to happen. I keep talking about Teoscar Hernandez. I don't think that I'm worried that we're not going to get him. The anticipation of wanting him and just to get that done so we can just put that to bed and then just relax the rest of the offseason. I mean, I think as a Dodgers fan, this is a time to really bask and enjoy this moment here because, as we know, it's very difficult to win a World Series. We've waited our entire lifetimes for a full season World Series title. And so now that we have one, let's fucking enjoy it.
This is the Incline Dodgers podcast, home of your 2024 World Series champion Dodgers. We're presented by TickPick and Fansided. My final thoughts are that there was no Dodgers podcast or show out there that was more correct than we were on the Blake Snell news. We called it from the jump. We didn't want to waste our time with Max Fried. He just never made sense to me as a Los Angeles Dodger fit. I had so many people in my mentions try to argue with me that Max Fried is far superior and would be the Dodgers' first choice over Blake Snell. Well, guess what? You guys are wrong. Blake Snell is coming to the Dodgers. He is going to be awesome. He's exactly the pitcher we need. And I said he would pick his team before December 1st. I pulled up the tape from when I talked about it on November 3rd, and that's exactly what happened. So this is going to be an A offseason no matter what the Dodgers do going forward, in my opinion. Just because they signed Blake Snell, they automatically get an A this offseason. So I'm more than ecstatic. And now we just get to sit back and see what else the Dodgers have up their sleeves and what exciting moves they're going to make. So everyone have a Thanksgiving. Kevin and Jake signing off. hit that like button, leave us a comment below. And if you're on the audio feed, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review.